Commander Allison Wright stood at the large window of the USS Defiant. She watched as Earth became smaller and smaller in the distance. Her face was hard and angry. The peace talks had failed, and now humanity was on its own. Just one day before, she had been sitting across from High Chancellor HFY of the Galactic Council. The alien leader had 12 eyes and skin that changed colors with his moods. Right now he was a deep purple, which meant he was annoyed. "The Council finds your demands unreasonable," HFY said. His translator made his voice sound flat and emotionless. "Humans are new to space travel. You must understand your place." Admiral Frank Carter, the leader of the human group, leaned forward. He was an older man with gray hair and eyes that had seen many battles. "Chancellor, we've been, reasonable. We ask only for fair treatment, the same mining rights as others, the same protection for our ships, the same voice in council matters." HFY's skin rippled with dark blue spots. "Impossible. Your species has been in space for barely a century. The youngest council member has been traveling the stars for 1,000 years, the oldest for 20,000. Commander Wright watched as other council members nodded in agreement. They sat in tall chairs around a circular table. Each alien was different. Some had scales, others had fur. Some looked almost human, while others were completely strange. But they all agreed on one thing: humans were not their equals. This had been going on for 3 weeks. The humans would ask for fair treatment. The council would say no. The humans would offer a compromise. The council would say no, again. Ambassador Peter Miller had been quiet for most of the meeting. He was young for his position, only 35, with dark skin and quick eyes. He suddenly passed a small device to Admiral Carter. The Admiral looked at it, then passed it to Commander Wright. On the screen was a message that had been sent between council members. It had been encrypted, but human computers had broken the code. The message was clear. The council had no plans to ever treat humans as equals. They wanted Earth's water and rare minerals. They planned to slowly weaken human defenses, then take what they wanted. Admiral Carter stood up. The room went quiet. "This meeting is over," he said. "Humanity withdraws from these talks, High Chancellor." HFY's skin turned bright yellow with surprise. "You cannot be serious. Your planet needs our help. Your technology is primitive. Your medicines are basic. Without council support, Earth will suffer. We would rather suffer on our own terms than be slowly destroyed on yours," Admiral Carter replied. He nodded to the human group. They all stood up and began to leave. "This is a mistake," called out General Drax of the Krell Empire. His voice was deep and his words rattled the tables. "Humans are weak. You need us." Commander Wright turned back. "Maybe you should ask yourselves if you need us." The human delegation left without another word. They returned to their ship within the hour. Ambassador Miller left one message on the council communication system: "Earth stands alone if it must." Now a day later, Commander Wright watched her home planet disappear as the Defiant prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel. Admiral Carter joined her at the window. "They'll come after us," she said. "Probably," the Admiral agreed. "They think we'll break easily." "Will we?" Admiral Carter smiled, but there was no joy in it. "Humanity has a long history of being underestimated, Commander. We've fought each other for thousands of years. We've survived plagues, world wars, climate disasters. We almost destroyed ourselves more than once, but we're still here." Commander Wright nodded. "The Council doesn't understand us?" "No, they don't. They think we'll beg to come back when things get hard." The Admiral looked out at the stars. "But they don't know what humans do when backed into a corner." The ship's captain, Olivia Sanders, approached them. She was tall with short red hair and a serious face. "Admiral, we're ready to jump. The rest of the fleet is waiting for us at the meeting point." "How many ships responded to the call?" Admiral Carter asked. "All of them, sir. Every human ship in space is heading home. The mining colonies are packing up. The research stations are going dark. Even the human traders working with alien crews are finding ways to get back to Earth." "Commander," Wright was surprised. "That's hundreds of ships and thousands of people. I didn't think they'd all come." Captain Sanders smiled. Word got out about what the council was planning. No one's happy about it. Admiral Carter nodded. Take us home, Captain. As Captain Sanders walked away, Commander Wright asked, What now, sir? Now we prepare, the Admiral said. The Council thinks they know what humanity is capable of. They've seen our official fleet. They've measured our weapons. They've counted our numbers. But they don't know about Project Sentinel, Commander Wright said quietly. No, they don't. For 3 years we've been building ships in the asteroid belt, hidden from Council scanners. We've been developing new weapons based on what we've learned from alien technology. We've been training soldiers in secret facilities on Mars and Europa. Admiral Carter's eyes were hard. The Council sees us as primitive because that's what we let them see. The ship's engines began to hum as they prepared for the jump to faster-than-light travel. Do you think there will be war? Commander Wright asked. I hope not, the Admiral replied. But history teaches us to hope for peace while preparing for war. The Council will probably try to pressure us first. Trade restrictions, blockades. They'll try to starve us out. And when that doesn't work, then we'll see what happens when an ancient, comfortable empire faces a young, hungry species with nothing to lose. Admiral Carter turned away from the window. We should get to the bridge. We have a lot of planning to do. As they walked through, the ship crew members stood straighter when they saw the Admiral. Everyone knew what had happened at the peace talks. Everyone knew what might be coming. Commander Wright felt a strange mix of fear and pride. Humanity was alone against a galaxy of older, more advanced species. But maybe, just maybe, that was exactly where humans performed best. The stars outside stretched into lines as the Defiant jumped into faster-than-light travel, racing back to Earth to prepare for whatever came next. In the Council chambers, the alien leaders were already planning how to bring the humans back under control. They had no idea that their decision to dismiss humanity would soon become the biggest mistake in the Council's long history. 2 days after the humans left, the Galactic Council met again. The massive chamber had 12 huge seats arranged in a perfect circle. Each seat was designed for a different alien species. Some were water tanks for sea creatures. Others were gravity pads for heavy world aliens. One was just a cloud of gas with tiny lights floating in it. High Chancellor Zix Var called the meeting to order. His skin was now a calm blue. He seemed completely relaxed. The human's dramatic exit changes nothing, he announced. His 6 arm-like limbs moved in the air as he spoke. Their technology is primitive. Their military is tiny. They will come back when they run out of resources. The council chamber was filled with murmurs of agreement. Most of the council members had been in power for hundreds of years. They had seen younger species act tough before. It never lasted. Ambassador Neil Toth of the Velrothi Confederation stood up. The Velrothi looked like tall, thin humans with silvery skin and large eyes. They were known for being careful and thoughtful. Chancellor, my researchers suggest we should be careful, Neil Toth said. Humans have shown remarkable ability to adapt in the short time since they began space travel. Just 50 years ago, they had only reached their moon. Now they have colonies on Mars and ships throughout their solar system. General Drax of the Krell Empire laughed. The sound was like rocks being crushed. The Krell were massive, reptile-like, beings with thick armor plates. They were the military power of the Council. Adaptation does not equal strength, General Drax said. My scouts report the human fleet has barely 200 warships. The smallest of our member species has at least 5 times that number. And our ships are bigger, stronger, and more advanced. High Chancellor Zix Var nodded. Exactly. The humans are not a threat, but we cannot allow them to simply walk away. It sets a bad example for other young species. The Council discussed what to do about Earth. Some wanted to send a message by destroying a small human outpost. Others thought that was too extreme. After hours of talk, they settled on a partial blockade of human space. Not a full military action, Zix Var explained. Just enough ships to control who goes in and out of their system. We'll slowly restrict their trade until they realize they cannot survive without us. The Council voted. 11 members agreed. With the plan, only one voted against it: the Arconian people. Their representative, Ambassador Lara Johnson, was actually human. She had lived among the Arconians for 30 years after her research ship crashed on their world. The Arconians had saved her life and later asked her to speak for them on the council. Ambassador Johnson stood up. She was in her 60s now, with gray hair and wrinkles around her eyes. But she stood straight and spoke clearly. "You fundamentally misunderstand human nature," she warned. "Humans don't surrender when threatened. They innovate, they find new solutions, and they remember who treated them as enemies." High Chancellor Zixvar's skin flickered with patches of yellow irritation. "Ambassador Johnson, your birth species clouds your judgment. The Council has existed for 50,000 years. We have seen hundreds of species rise and fall. We know how to handle this situation." Ambassador Johnson shook her head. "You're making a serious mistake. I've lived among the Arconians for 30 years, but I still remember Earth's history. Humans have fought wars that killed millions of their own kind. They've survived disasters that should have ended their civilization. Do not mistake their youth for weakness." "Your concerns are noted," Zixvar said dismissively, "but the Council has decided." Within hours, ships from all Council species were heading toward human space. They would set up a ring around the human solar system, controlling all traffic in and out. The Council expected the humans to protest at first, but eventually give. 3 weeks later, the blockade was complete. 200 Council ships positioned themselves at key points around human space. They began turning away trading vessels that tried to reach Earth. Captain William Russell commanded one of the blockade ships, the Inevitable Justice. He was a member of the Talari species, with pale green skin and 4 arms. The Talari were known for being fair and level-headed. Captain Russell had been chosen for the blockade because he was not likely to start a fight. "Any sign of human ships?" he asked his crew as they patrolled their section of the blockade. "Nothing, Captain," replied his sensor officer. "They seem to be staying within their system." Captain Russell frowned. This was strange. He had expected the humans to test the blockade, to see if they could slip past. But for 3 weeks, there had been no attempts. No human ships had approached the blockade at all. "What are they doing in there?" he wondered aloud. His communications officer spoke up. "Captain, we're receiving reports from other blockade ships. They're seeing the same thing. No activity. From the humans, it's like they're ignoring us." Captain Russell felt uneasy. In his long career, he had learned that when an enemy does nothing, it usually means they're planning something. "Keep all sensors at maximum range," he ordered, "and maintain regular communication with the other ships." Meanwhile, back on the Council homeworld, Ambassador Lara Johnson met secretly with Ambassador Neil Toth of the Velrathi. "The Council is making a terrible mistake," she said. "I know my birth species. They won't just sit there and accept the blockade." Neil Toth looked troubled. "What do you think they will do?" "I don't know exactly," Ambassador Johnson admitted, "but I know they'll do something unexpected. Humans are at their most dangerous when they're backed into a corner." "Should we warn the Council?" Neil Toth asked. Ambassador Johnson shook her head. "They wouldn't listen. They believe their own history too much. They've never faced a species quite like humans before." "And what makes humans so different?" Neil Toth asked. Ambassador Johnson thought for a moment. "Most species that join the Council have thousands of years of peace behind them. They develop, slowly, carefully. Humans are different. Their entire history is filled with conflict and competition. They've had to adapt quickly just to survive each other. And now they'll adapt to survive us." Back at the blockade, Captain Russell was about to end his shift when the alarm sounded. "Captain," his sensor officer called out, "we're detecting something, but it doesn't make sense." "Explain," Captain Russell ordered. "There are energy readings, appearing and disappearing all around the blockade. They last only a second, then vanish. They don't match any known ship signature." Captain Russell felt a chill run down his spine. "Contact the other ships. Ask if they're seeing the same thing." But before his communications officer could send the message, 3 blockade ships on the far side of the human system went silent. Then 2 more. Then 4 more. Something was happening. The humans were making their move. and the Galactic Council had no idea what was coming. 6 months had passed since the Council placed their blockade around human space. At first, the Council leaders were confident. They expected the humans to quickly run out of important supplies and come begging for help. But as the weeks turned into months, there was only silence from Earth. Captain William Russell of the Galactic Council Enforcement Division felt more uneasy with each passing day. His ship, the Inevitable Justice, continued its patrol of the blockade line, but something felt wrong. "Still no sign of human ships, Captain," reported his sensor officer. Russell nodded. "It doesn't make sense. They should be desperate by now. They should be trying to break through or at least send messages." The communication officer turned to him. "Sir, we're receiving a priority message from Council Command." "Put it through," Russell ordered. The face of Admiral Vex appeared on the screen. Like most of his species, he had 4 eyes and gray, stone-like skin. "Captain Russell, have you observed any unusual activity in your sector?" Admiral Vex asked, his voice tense. "No, Admiral. It's been quiet, as always." 3 of our blockade ships have just gone silent," the Admiral said. "The Golden Dawn, the Righteous Path, and the Starhammer. All at the same time, all in different parts of the blockade." Captain Russell felt a chill. "What happened to them?" "We don't know. There was no distress call, no sign of battle. They simply stopped communicating. I'm ordering all ships to go to full alert. Something is happening." The screen went dark. Captain Russell immediately turned to his crew. "Battle stations, full power to shields and sensors." The crew rushed to obey. For months they had been bored and restless. Now they moved with purpose, their training taking over. "Captain," called the sensor officer, "I'm detecting strange energy readings. Very faint, almost like—" His words were cut off as the ship suddenly shook violently. Warning alarms blared across the bridge. "What was that?" Russell demanded. "Unknown, sir. Our rear shields just lost power, but there's no sign of any attack." Before Captain Russell could respond, another violent shake hit the ship. More alarms sounded. "Weapon systems failing, communications down, life support damaged." Captain Russell stared at the chaos around him. "How is this possible? There are no enemy ships." His sensor officer looked up with wide eyes. "Sir, I caught something for just a second. A ship, but it didn't register as a ship at first. It has some kind of stealth technology we've never seen before." "Get me visual," Russell ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the space behind their ship. At first it appeared empty. Then, like a ghost taking form, a ship appeared. It was smaller than the Inevitable Justice, but sleek and dangerous looking. It had no markings except for one symbol on its side, the flag of Earth. "Human ship," someone shouted. Before they could react, the human vessel fired again. This time, Captain Russell saw the weapon, a beam of energy unlike anything in the Council's arsenal. It cut through their failing shields like they weren't even there. "Sir, we're being hailed," reported the communications officer. "Put it through," Russell said, his voice steady despite his fear. A human woman appeared on the screen. She wore a simple gray uniform with no visible rank insignia. Her face was calm, almost friendly. "Captain Russell of the Inevitable Justice, this is Commander Kelly Grant of Earth Defense Force. Your ship is disabled but not destroyed. Your crew will not be harmed if you surrender now." Russell blinked in surprise. "How do you know my name? How did you disable our ship so easily?" The human smiled slightly. "We've had 6 months to learn everything about your blockade, Captain. 6 months to study your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. 6 months to prepare while you sat out here waiting for us to starve." Captain Russell realized with horror what had happened. "The other ships that went silent are being disabled as we speak, just like yours," Commander Grant confirmed. "Half your blockade will be under our control within the next hour. The rest will follow soon after." Back on the Council homeworld, emergency alarms were sounding throughout the grand government buildings. Council members were rushed to a secure meeting room deep underground. High Chancellor Zixvar's skin was flashing between colors of fear and rage. "What is happening to our blockade fleet?" Admiral Vex stood before the Council, his stone face cracked with stress lines. 53 of our ships have gone silent in the past 3 hours. The few that manage to send messages report being attacked by human vessels using unknown technology. They can somehow make themselves invisible to our sensors until they're ready to strike. Impossible, shouted General Drax of the Krill. Humans don't have stealth technology that advanced. Their ships are primitive. Ambassador Lara Johnson spoke up from her seat. I warned you. Humans don't respond to pressure the way you expected. They innovate. High Chancellor Zixavar turned to her angrily. You knew they were planning this? I knew they would do something. Unexpected, she replied calmly. I didn't know what. But I understand how humans think. When threatened, they don't give up. They get creative. And they've had 6 months to be very creative. Dr. Elizabeth Sawyer, the head of human studies at the Galactic Archives, was brought into the emergency meeting. She was a small, bird-like alien with bright purple feathers and large, intelligent eyes. Chancellor, I've been studying human history extensively, she said. Their entire civilization has been shaped by conflict. When one human nation is threatened by another, they often develop new technologies at an astonishing rate. She displayed images on the large screen. During something they called World War II, they went from basic propeller aircraft to jet engines in just a few years. In their Cold War, they went from simple rockets to space travel in a decade. What are you saying? The Chancellor demanded. I'm saying that by threatening them, we gave them exactly what they needed: motivation. By blockading them, we gave them time to prepare. It was the worst combination of circumstances. Just then, another alarm sounded. Admiral Vex checked his communication device and paled. Chancellor, we've lost contact with the entire blockade fleet. Every ship. Gone. The room fell silent. 200 warships crewed by the finest officers from a dozen advanced civilizations had just been defeated by a species that shouldn't have been capable of such a thing. How? Whispered the Chancellor, his skin now a pale white of shock. How could they have developed such technology so quickly? Dr. Sawyer looked grim. That's the thing about humans, Chancellor. I don't think they developed it in the last 6 months. I think they already had it. They've been preparing for this possibility for years, even while participating in peace talks. A message suddenly appeared on all screens in the room. It showed Admiral Frank Carter of Earth, the same man who had walked out of the peace talk 6 months ago. Attention Galactic Council, he said, his voice calm but firm. Your blockade fleet has been neutralized. No lives were lost. All crew members are safe and will be returned to you unharmed. This was not an act of war, but a removal of an illegal blockade. Earth remains open to fair and honest negotiations between equals. The choice of what happens next is yours. The message ended, leaving the council leaders staring at each other in shock. They had completely underestimated humanity, and now they were facing a new reality, one where humans could not be ignored or bullied. And somewhere in the void of space, human ships moved silently between the stars, watching and waiting for the Council's next move. News spread quickly across the 12 worlds of the Galactic Council. The entire blockade fleet had been defeated by the humans. Not a single Council ship had escaped. The species that many had dismissed as primitive had somehow disabled 200 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy without firing a single deadly shot. The Grand Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate military action, others called for peace talks. Many simply wanted someone to blame. High Chancellor Zixavar struggled to maintain order. His skin had turned a sickly gray color that reflected his stress and fear. We must respond with overwhelming force, shouted General Drax, pounding his massive fist on the table. The Krell warriors' scales were flared in anger. Deploy the Guardian Fleet now. The Guardian Fleet was the Council's greatest military force. 1,000 capital ships held in reserve for only the most serious threats. It had not been activated in over 700 years. Ambassador Neil Toth of the Velrathi spoke up. His silver skin seemed duller than usual, reflecting his concern. We should not rush to war. The humans disabled our ships but harmed no one. They are returning all crew members unharmed. These are not the actions of a bloodthirsty enemy. They humiliated us, General Drax roared. They made the council look weak. We cannot allow this. Ambassador Lara Johnson stood up from the Arconian section. The human woman's face was calm, but her eyes were intense. We should have listened earlier. The humans weren't exaggerating their concerns about fair treatment. We treated them as primitive when we should have recognized them as equals. Hi, Chancellor Zixvar's skin rippled with patches of angry red. Your loyalty seems divided, Ambassador Johnson. My loyalty is to peace, she replied simply. I've lived among the Arconians for 30 years, but I understand humans in ways you don't. They don't want war. They never did. They just refuse to be treated as inferiors. The debate raged for hours. When it became clear that no agreement could be reached, High Chancellor Zixvar made a desperate proposal. I call for deployment of the Guardian Fleet, he announced. We must show the humans the true might of the Council. We must teach them their place. The chamber went silent. Deploying the Guardian Fleet required a unanimous vote from all 12 Council members. It had never been used against a single species before. The vote began. The Krell voted yes immediately. The Vorax, the Mentari, and the Quar followed. 6 species in total voted to deploy the fleet, but then the Velrathi voted no. The Arconians followed. The Zerim and the Galdu also voted against deployment. The Phi Collective, after much internal discussion among their hive mind, voted no as well. The final vote was 6-6. Without unanimity, the Guardian Fleet would remain inactive. High Chancellor Zixvar was furious. You doom us to weakness. The humans will see our division and exploit it. Ambassador Neil Toth stood firm. We will not support the start of a war that could have been avoided through fair treatment. The humans have shown restraint. We should respond in kind. While the Council argued, disturbing reports began to arrive from across Council space. Human ships had been spotted in supposedly secure systems. They weren't attacking. They weren't threatening. They were just there, watching. Sometimes they would appear briefly on sensors, then vanish again. One appeared right next to a major space station in the Krell home system, stayed for 5 minutes, then disappeared before fighters could reach it. Another was seen near the main fleet yards of the Mentari. A third appeared in orbit around a moon in the Vorax system that housed their central defense computers. The message was clear. Human ships could reach any part of Council space undetected. Admiral Susan Martinez, now leading Earth's defense forces, transmitted a message that somehow bypassed all security measures. It reached every world in Council space simultaneously. People of the Galactic Council, she said. Her face was calm but serious. She wore a simple blue uniform with small silver stars on the collar. We sought peace as equals. Remember that, when your leaders speak of war. We have no desire for conquest. We have no wish for revenge. We simply want fair treatment and the right to exist without threat. The choice is yours. The message played on every screen, in every home, on every ship throughout Council space. Billions of citizens from 12 different species heard the human admiral's words. Back in the Council chamber, the debate had turned from military action to a more important question. How had they misjudged humans so badly? Dr. Elizabeth Sawyer was called back to explain. The small bird-like alien adjusted her translator and addressed the Council. We evaluated human military strength based on what they showed us, she said. We counted their visible ships. We measured their known weapons. We assumed their technological development followed the same path as other species. She paused. We were wrong. Dr. Sawyer displayed images of Earth and its history. Most species that join the Council developed slowly over thousands of years of peace. Humans developed in constant competition with each other. Their history is filled with wars and conflicts that drove rapid innovation. When one human nation developed a new weapon, others quickly created countermeasures or better weapons. She showed more images of submarines hiding under the water, of aircraft that could avoid radar detection, of digital weapons that could disable systems without physical damage. Stealth and asymmetric warfare aren't new concepts to humans, Dr. Sawyer explained. They've been perfecting these techniques for centuries against each other. What we're seeing now is simply those same principles applied to space combat. Why? Didn't we know about these capabilities? Demanded Chancellor Zixavar. Because they hid them, Dr. Sawyer said simply. It appears they've been developing these technologies in secret for years, even while engaged in peace talks. They showed us only what they wanted us to see. The council members looked at each other with new understanding. The humans hadn't suddenly developed advanced technology in 6 months. They had been preparing for years just in case diplomacy failed. Ambassador Johnson spoke again. The humans I grew up with have a saying, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. They came to the peace talks genuinely seeking friendship, but they weren't naive. They prepared for the possibility that the council might not treat them fairly. High Chancellor Zixvar's skin had settled into a deep blue of contemplation. What do the humans want now? The same thing they wanted 6 months ago, Ambassador Johnson replied, to be treated as equals, to have fair access to trade routes, to have their borders respected, to have a voice in decisions that affect them. As night fell across the council homeworld, the 12 leaders faced a difficult truth. They had completely misjudged humanity, not just their technology but their character. And now they had to decide how to move forward in a galaxy where humans could no longer be ignored or controlled. Meanwhile, across the stars, Admiral Frank Carter sat in his office on the USS Defiant. The same ship that had carried the human delegation away from the failed peace talks 6 months ago was now the flagship of Earth's newly revealed fleet. Sir, said Commander Wright, entering his office. The Council is requesting to open a new channel for communication. Admiral Carter nodded. Let's see if they're ready to talk as equals this time. 3 weeks after the humans disabled the Council blockade, a single human ship approached the Council homeworld. It was smaller than most Council vessels, but sleek and powerful looking. Scans showed it was heavily armed, though all weapon systems were powered down. The Council station's security teams were nervous. They had never expected to see a human ship here, at the very heart of Council space. Many had only heard stories about the strange beings from Earth who had somehow defeated their blockade fleet. The human ship requested permission to dock. After a brief delay, permission was granted. The Council chamber had been rearranged. The 12 massive seats were no longer in a circle looking down at visitors. Instead, they were arranged at a long table, with an empty seat at the end. It was a small change, but an important one. Visitors would no longer stand below the Council members. They would sit as equals. High Chancellor Zixvar was gone. After the blockade failure, he had been forced to resign. In his place sat Administrator Tolrek, a moderate who had long argued for more openness to younger species. His greenish-blue skin was calm and steady as he waited. The human delegation entered the chamber. The Council members were surprised to see that it was led not by a military officer, but by a civilian, Dr. Alan Phillips, a renowned xenoanthropologist who had spent decades studying Council species. He was a tall man with dark skin and gray hair at his temples. He walked with a slight limp from an old injury. With him were 3 others. Commander Allison Wright, who had been part of the original peace talks, a young human woman who carried various technical devices, and a quiet, watchful man who was clearly security. Dr. Phillips bowed slightly to the Council. Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. Administrator Tolrek nodded in return. We welcome Earth's representatives. Please be seated. Dr. Phillips sat in the chair at the end of the table. It was a simple action, but powerful. 6 months ago, humans had been expected to stand before the Council, looking up at them. Now they sat at the same level. We regret that our first attempt at diplomacy failed, Dr. Phillips began. His voice was deep and calm. We hope this second attempt proves more productive. What followed was not a negotiation in the traditional sense. Dr. Phillips simply explained reality in a way that could not be disputed. He did not threaten. He did not demand. He simply laid out facts. Humanity has no desire for war, he said. We have no wish to conquer or control other species. We simply want what all members of the Council already have: fair treatment, respect for our borders, and a voice in decisions that affect us. The young woman with him activated a device that projected images above the table. They showed evidence of the Council's previous plan to disarm humans while taking Earth's resources. The images were taken directly from Council secure communications. We knew about these plans even during our first peace talks, Dr. Phillips explained. That's why we walked away. We couldn't negotiate with those who had already decided to deceive us. Several Council members looked uncomfortable. Some had not known about these secret plans. "What do you want from us?" asked Ambassador Neil Toth of the Velrathi. Dr. Phillips smiled slightly. "3 things. First, guaranteed non-interference in human space. Second, fair trade agreements with all Council species. Third, representation on the Council equal to other species." The Council members looked at each other in surprise. Many had expected harsh demands or punishments for the blockade. These requests were remarkably reasonable. "That's all?" asked General Drax of the Krell, suspicion in his voice. "That's all we ever wanted," Commander Wright spoke up. "We came to the first peace talk seeking friendship and cooperation. That hasn't changed." Administrator Tolrek leaned forward. "And if we refuse?" Dr. Phillips looked sad. "We would continue to protect ourselves as we protected ourselves from your blockade. But that would be a path with no winners. We prefer cooperation over conflict." What went unsaid but was clearly understood by everyone in the room was what had happened to the blockade fleet. The humans could have destroyed those ships but chose to disable them instead. They could have killed thousands of Council personnel but chose to spare everyone. It was both a show of power and of restraint. After hours of discussion, Administrator Tolrek called for a vote. One by one, the 12 Council species voted to accept the human terms. Even General Drax of the Krell, who had been most opposed to human equality, voted yes. He understood the new reality. The Council accepts these terms as the foundation for a new relationship with Earth, Administrator Tolrek announced formally. His skin glowed with a bright, hopeful blue. As the new accords were signed, Ambassador Lara Johnson, the human who represented the Arconians, spoke quietly to her Arconian colleague. "Humans didn't want war," she said. "We just refused to be bullied." The Arconian, a tall being with flowing silver hair and shimmering skin, nodded. "Perhaps this will lead to greater changes within the Council. For too long, the older species have looked down on the younger ones." The signing ceremony completed, Dr. Phillips stood to leave. Before he did, Administrator Tolrek asked a question that many had wondered. How did humans develop such advanced stealth technology without our knowledge? Dr. Phillips smiled. "We've been studying every ship that visited Earth since our first contact with alien life. We learned from you. We adapted your technologies and combined them with our own ideas." "And the ships that appeared throughout Council space after the blockade was defeated?" asked another Council member. "A demonstration," Commander Wright explained. "We needed you to understand that we could reach any system if we had to, but notice that we harmed nothing and no one. That was intentional." As the human delegation prepared to leave, Administrator Tolrek approached Dr. Phillips privately. "There will be resistance from some," he warned. "Not everyone will accept humans as equals so easily." "We understand," Dr. Phillips replied. "Change is never easy. But the alternative to change was conflict, and neither of us wanted that." In the months and years that followed, the Galactic Council underwent its most significant reforms in thousands of years. Humanity's integration brought fresh ideas and new perspectives to ancient institutions. Other younger species gained new rights and representation, inspired by Earth's example. 5 years later, Commander Allison Wright, now Admiral Wright, became Earth's official representative on the Reformed Council. Sometimes during important votes, she would remember that moment on the USS Defiant, watching Earth grow smaller in the distance as they walked away from the peace talks. Walking away had been a risk. It could have led to war. But sometimes walking away is the only way to find a path forward. The Council had feared human aggression, never realizing that treating humans as equals would have avoided conflict entirely. Their greatest mistake wasn't underestimating human military potential. It was failing to recognize that humans make their best allies and their worst enemies for the same reason. They never forget how they've been treated. As Admiral Wright took her seat at the council table, equal among the representatives of civilizations thousands of years older than her own, she smiled at the thought of how far they had all come. Though stars were open to humanity now, not as a gift but as a right they had earned. And the Galactic Council had learned an important lesson about a young species from a small blue planet in an unremarkable corner of the galaxy. Never mistake youth for weakness and never confuse patience for surrender.